Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
In the India-China standoff, for several weeks, we were fixated with Galwan River Valley, then with Pangong Tso, the Pangong Lake, first North Bank, then South Bank, then again both North and the South Bank. Lately, however, the attention is shifted to the area called Subsector North, or that is where DBO, Daulat Beg Oldi comes in. But the catch word right now, the catch word geographical feature is now Depsang. So there's a lot of talk about what's happening in Depsang plains, as these were called. And remember, the important thing is these are called plains. Now remember, when we discuss these things, I will try and explain to you the importance of Depsang plains and also what is happening there, claims and counterclaims, claims by some, particularly critics of the government, that India has ceded 900 square kilometers of territory to China in Depsang plains, or the rival claim of the government saying that no territory has been lost, but also what it means strategically and tactically for India, China, and remember, there is a third party somewhere up there in the north, little bit to north and west, that is Pakistan. But remember, as I talk about this, we are not soldiers, we are not strategists. It's the same kind of health warning I gave you when we talk about coronavirus. We are not doctors, we are not scientists. So we are not soldiers, we are not strategists, we are not cartographers, and we are not diplomats, nor are we geographers. But because we are journalists, we can talk to good people, good professionals in each one of these professions and can arrive at some conclusions and some understanding, which is what we try to bring to you. So even today, it's taken me a lot of work to get this far, to gather the confidence to speak to you about this very sensitive area. But remember, once again, we are non-professionals. We are not soldiers, and we do not speak on behalf of our government or any government for that matter. The other thing is that a lot of the maps that you need, maps or models, are not available to us. They might sometimes be available to us when somebody invites you and gives you a briefing, but that's only for when you see it. So we don't have access to all that. Also, the maps and drawings we use, I'm giving you a very long health warning. The maps and drawings we use are all approximate. They are not to scale. They do not denote countries' boundaries, definitely not precisely. In fact, these areas are so sensitive that the thickness of the nib of the pen you use can make a difference of life and death on the two sides in terms of strategic importance. So when we show you sketches, we show you sketches to get you focused directionally in terms of where we are, what is where. This is not to denote anybody's property claims anywhere. So with all that out of the way, let me get down to this. But also let me tell you that I know that you people think that I'm always much too serious. Some of you think I'm not so serious. I could be more serious, but I know that on balance I'm much too serious, and there has to be a little light moment in life, or a few light moments in life. So stay with me till the end of this Cut the Clutter. I will give you not one, but more than one light moments featuring, and I'm giving the story away partly, featuring not a human being, and let me give away more of the story, not a dog either. Now back to Subsector North. So what is Subsector North? If you look at the map of India, the map of Ladakh, it starts right up north at the root or at the base of the Karakoram Pass, and then the line of actual control runs south like this. Then you start with Daulat Beg Oldi, which is at the top, DBO right up north. It's only 8 kilometers from Karakoram Pass. That's a crucial pass, although remember, CPEC does not pass through Karakoram. It goes through Khunjera Pass, which is way ahead. So to that extent, it is safe for the Chinese and the Pakistanis. But Karakoram Pass gives you an ingress into Xinjiang region. Now, the Chinese are sensitive about Xinjiang, they are sensitive about Sikkim. So that's why this is sensitive to the Chinese. But Daulat Beg Oldi is not within the Chinese claim line. That's why let me make it clear to you that in 1962, if it's tough to maintain DBO now, you can imagine how much tougher it was in 1962. So in 1962, the tiny Indian detachment there had been ordered to withdraw. So India had abandoned DBO in 1962, but the Chinese had not come and occupied it. What the Chinese did, on the other hand, is in terms of their own claim line, they occupied much of Depsang Plains to the west. What was left with India is a Depsang bulge, and you can see it on the map. The bulge goes like this into the Depsang Plains, much larger Depsang Plains, and these plains are plains. So these are sand and stone. Beautiful country for driving tanks, armored personnel carriers, artillery and mechanized units, which is unusual at about 17,000, 16,000 feet average altitude. You have this flat desert-like landscape. So this area you can use large mechanized forces. Difference is, once again, look at these broad maps. You see that much of this plains area is under Chinese control already, so from 69 onwards, in fact from mid 50s or early 50s onwards. And there is a bulge with the Indian side. Now, how Indian side uses a bulge and how does the Indian side see that bulge? Are two ways of seeing it. One way is the gung-ho way, which is that, look, this is my ingress into Aksai Chin. This is China's soft underbelly, or this is maybe soft underbelly there is a little bit of an understatement. Maybe this is my route to China's jugular. Why do I say so? Because if I can win a mechanized battle with the Chinese, I'm talking militarily, tactically, if I can win a mechanized battle with the Chinese in the Depsang bulge, and I can go deeper, push them deeper into Depsang plains, then ultimately I can reach that highway G219, which is China's jugular between Tibet and Xinjiang. That's why we say that you could say, if you had a more gung-ho view of life, as many people do, that, oh, this is where India should put large bodies of tanks and teach the Chinese a lesson. Now, this has to be given a reality check also, because, in a battle, in a war, there are two sides. And you can't take the view from one side of the fence when there is also a bull on the other. I mean, you're also a bull, but there is another bull on the other side of the fence. So look at it from the defensive point of view. From the defensive point of view, India has this bulge of Depsang plains, but the Chinese have huge expanses of plains behind this, leading up to their big bases. And obviously, logistics through the plains region, in spite of the altitude, are much less challenging than logistics through valleys and hills and running along the rivers. Those are India's roads. The DSDBO road, as it's called, Darbuk Shiok DBO road. And then the roads that India is trying to build behind that, we had spoken about one, that is Sosoma Sasirla road, which goes to the base of the Siachen Glacier on the southern side and eastern side, and then connects into the DBO road, sort of facing the Depsang plains. Now, defensively speaking, and this is something that Lieutenant General H.S. Panag had said in a soft cover interview we had done at the launch of his book that Snehesh Alex Philip and I had done. He said that the defense of DBO actually has many challenges. In fact, DBO has many vulnerabilities. And what are the vulnerabilities? The biggest vulnerability is, again, look at the map, it is the other end of the Indian supply chain through very difficult territory, right? Very difficult territory where your only highway or only road connecting to this is almost constantly within Chinese direct fire range. They don't have to capture any territory. And I'm not even talking of standoff weapons or PGMs fired from a distance. This is much too close for comfort. So to maintain large forces that far away from your supply nucleus through this very tenuous route and carry out offensive operations is a big challenge to begin with, unless you are a Napoleon and you say, I don't care about the winter in Russia, or Hitler after that, and you know what happened between them and winter. So how stressed your supply lines are is a very crucial calculation. And that's why if you read another interview, and I'm sharing all these with you, that General Pannu, who was Corps Commander Ladakh, it's a wonderful interview. I think one of the best interviews with a army veteran who has experience in the area so far in the media. And that interview was done with Snehesh Alex Philip. He says that one of the reasons the Chinese withdrew in 1962, especially in the eastern sector, Arunachal Pradesh or Nepal then, was because they knew that their supply lines had stretched too far and they will not be able to maintain it, particularly during the winter. So in the mountains, the weather, the geography, the distance, these three are also weapons. These are weapons of offense as well as defense. So if you look at the defensive posture of India in this area, then if the Chinese are able to use the cushioning power of all the vast plains they have behind them, they can bring in much larger bodies of mechanized forces here. And if they can somehow defy this Indian line of defense at sort of coming south from Daulat Beg Oldi right up to say a place called Morgo, or a little bit more south of that, until where Depsang Plains end and mountains begin again. If the Chinese can push through this using much heavier firepower, they have to be willing to take a lot of losses, then they can threaten India in India's soft underbelly. And what is India's soft underbelly then? That is the Sasirla Pass, because that in a way is at the base of Siachen Glacier and is crucial to supplies to Siachen in many areas. So the other end of Siachen will remain okay, that is the Saltoro Ridge, you can fight the Pakistanis there. But if this comes under pressure, then Pakistanis can increase pressure on that side. Once again, who wants to do what? We don't know, but we can only do scenario mapping. So this is, if you ask me, and that is based on what a lot of reputed people who served in the area, including several Northern Army commanders I have spoken with and several former Ladakh Corps commanders I have spoken with, they see subsector North as an area of defensive concern. They do not see subsector North as an area of offensive priority. It's just too far. What happens in a human body? For example, if a human body has completely uncontrolled diabetes, what happens? Why do then you find that the toes or veins or arteries of the legs are the first ones to show damage or blockage? Because that is the most distant end of your supply chain. So your heart pumps, it takes the strongest effort to pump it to the most distant part of your body, and as your vessels get more constricted, blood struggles to reach there. That's exactly how supplies work with the militaries, particularly in the mountains. And that's why you find Indian Army is now stocking up so heavily for the winter. Now you will then ask me, what is happening? So there are 3 sets or 4 sets of stories that I'll share with you. You can make up your own minds, but I will give you my view. One is a story that on 8th of August, Snehesh did for the print.in, where he said that what's happening in Depsang is a reflection of what happened in Pangong. The essence being that Pangong, the area between finger 4 and finger 8, both India and China claimed, both patrolled it, but both at some point ran into each other midway and sent each other back. So nobody was quite able to reach the other end. What the Chinese did in Pangong was to come up to finger 4 and then establish camp there and said, at least this is ours and you guys move back up to Finger 2 is ours. In Depsang, what was happening, again, both sides were patrolling a certain area. When you see the Depsang map now, again, a very broad map drawn with a broad nib. So no territorial claims on either side are being justified or challenged. Now, if you see that, there's an additional factor in Depsang that is called LOP. LOP is not the leader of opposition. LOP is limits of patrol. So Depsang is a unique area in Ladakh where India's line of actual control or perception and China's line of actual control perception vary as they do in many other areas. But here, the limits to which India can patrol are also in a way notified. So almost for about 30 years now, India has not gone beyond these patrolling points. So these patrolling points 10, 11, 11A, 12, 12A, 13. If you see these patrolling points, you see them sort of going around this Depsang bulge and coming back and merging north of Galwan. So this is the crucial area for India. What's happened now is that you see an area there called bottleneck. It's also called Y because it's like a Y. Now this is literally a bottleneck because from the Indian side, this is so narrow that Indian vehicles can't go through it. So Indian patrols have to go across this on foot. And then India has its patrolling routes going up to 10, coming down to 13. And similarly, the Chinese have also had their patrolling routes. Now, this is where the problem is. The Chinese either have put a very good surveillance mechanism near this bottleneck, or they might have a tiny patrol or something sitting there. So when the Indian patrol is trying to go beyond bottleneck, the Chinese come in vehicles in strength and stop the Indian patrols. So that is why the government is saying the Chinese have not occupied any territory, and they are not lying. At the same time, those that are saying that the Chinese have stopped India's access to a lot of territories are right. So the answer to the question, has India lost territory to China or has India not lost territory to China? So the correct answer to that is India has been denied access to territory by China in Depsang Plains. And that depends on how much area that is. It's sizable area, because if you see this patrolling point 10, 11, 11A, 12, 12A, 13, it's a sizable area. But the Chinese are not sitting there, unlike the situation between Finger 8 and 4 in Pangong. The Chinese are not there, but they say if you come in, we'll come and stop you. So today, because it's a very fraught situation, Indian Army has also decided not to go and take pangas there. So that's where you are, and I think expectations on the Indian side are that once there are negotiations finally and there is disengagement and there is restoration of normalcy, we will be able to resume patrolling to these points. Now, this is not something which has started just the other day in Depsang. This happened in 2013. The Chinese had come in. In fact, they came in very close. They came in within 1.5 kilometers of the big Indian Army and ITBP camp at a place called Burtse, B-U-R-T-S-E, which you will see. Chinese claim line comes up to within 1.5 kilometers of that. That, after all the negotiations and counter pressures, the Chinese withdrew their camp and they went back, but they never went back beyond the India's perception of LAC. They went behind India's LOP, that is limits of patrolling, but not quite back to the LOC line. It is from there that they now again come and block you at bottleneck, which is 7 kilometers from this Burtse camp. So when the Chinese try now to patrol beyond bottleneck to come towards Burtse up to their claim line, which is 1.5 kilometers short of Burtse, they are blocked by Indian forces. When Indian forces try to cross bottleneck, they are stopped by Chinese forces. So this is where the big game right now is. Now, if you look at all of the terrain of Ladakh, there are only 2 areas where you can use tanks, which means you can use mobile warfare, you can make quick resolution of a battle. One is Spangor Gap, but that's a much tinier area. Spangor Gap and Chushul Bowl, that's a much tinier area, very narrow, also overlooked by high mountains on all sides. So even a defensive battle on that side is more plausible than in Depsang. Depsang, if you see, you do not see any large geographical features. So I'm sharing a bunch of articles with you, one by Sushant Singh today, he's a former colonel of the army, on The Wire, one by our own Snehesh Alex Philip, his August 8 article. Third is the article from the front page of Indian Express today by Nirupma Subramanian, and I think one more byline. And among the links I'm sharing with you is also an article by Vijeta Singh of The Hindu, who I think the world of, who was more emphatic in saying that the Chinese actually have occupied Indian territory. So you have to then toggle your mind between all these various reports and also the geography and the facts that I'm putting forward to you. And if you read all that and if you see these maps, then you understand the state of play. And you also understand why Rajnath Singh is not talking Depsang. Because this is a situation where he can afford not to tell you, or he thinks he can afford not to tell you the entire truth. The entire truth is the Chinese are denying India access to this area. But it is not a lie to say that Chinese do not have any Indian controlled territory in their control. They do not. So he is not lying in Parliament, and I think when he says that there are operational issues which are sensitive and I can't talk about them, this is one of the areas that's under consideration. So once again, whether this is an area of offensive opportunity for India or a defensive concern, that is something for strategists to decide on. You can see it. I will only say that this is the farthest end of Indian supply chains for a sizable formation of Indian mechanized forces anywhere in the country, on any border. So do you really want to risk so many tanks, armored vehicles, etc. here, where at the back of you have the mountains from where your mechanized armor has no place for movement. That's one. And the second thing is that this is where I think the strategic issue of this standoff will be determined. And if you look at General Panag's article today on The Print, again of which I am sharing with you, he says that he gets a sense that by creating this situation, Xi Jinping is actually trying to offer you a negotiating line, which is the 1959 Chinese claim line, and then you can negotiate from there. Now, if General Panag is right, then what I said a few months back, that the Chinese reaction is because India said they will go and take back Aksai Chin, maybe that speculation is right, because this way Chinese are trying to secure Aksai Chin, because Chinese see themselves as a superpower. They want to fight tomorrow's battles today, and preferably by not having to fight anybody. I think for the Chinese to risk the lives of hundreds and thousands of their men, even in Depsang, where they have a tactical terrain advantage, is very, very, very unlikely. But this is the lay of the land, and this is the situation on the ground, and this is what India has to be prepared about. At the same time, in terms of public opinion, it doesn't hurt for us to know facts as precisely as possible and as precisely as plausible. Having said that, I told you I'll give you some moments to smile. So I know in the past I've talked about one little cat of ours that broke our television, and you keep asking me how can a cat break a television. See our favorite Bella, she's one of our many cats. See her in action. You can see that she loves sport. She loves the IPL logo. She also particularly likes Australian batsman Travis Head. In fact, she even catches him when he's fielding. And finally, she has a favorite news TV anchor, namely Rahul Kanwal of India Today TV. So we'd be so thrilled as you might be looking at the cat jumping at the TV and doing this funny things and playing her antics. What we didn't realize was it was an LCD TV. In the course of time, this will break the LCD crystals. So we paid the price for that little entertainment as well, and now we have a new television set. So we are no longer complaining, but we don't let the cat go and play with it again.